learning about how chords relate to each other and often swap out for each other can really help. Can really help with chord substitutions. It can help you understand why two people or two different publications might have two different ways of playing the same chords. It can also help with arpeggio substitutions in your own way of substituting chords. And the focus on today's lesson is the relationship between chord 3 and chord 1. First off, what is chord 1, chord 3? If we take our C major scale, if we harmonise it and build chords from each note, we get chord 1, C major 7, chord 2, D minor 7, chord 3, E minor 7, we keep going up, F major 7, G7, A minor 7, B to minor 7 flat 5, back to C. So we're talking today about C major 7 and E minor 7. So these two chords are closely related. To understand why, we need to understand the notes and the chords. So if we took C major 7, the notes are C, E, G, B. If we took E minor 7, the notes are E, G, B, D. So that means we've got some shared notes there. Obviously the E, the G and the B. So there's actually three notes the same, which means they can work well for each other. And the other thing to point out here also is this E minor 7 is also the same notes as a G6 chord, G6 being G, B, D, E. So there's a bit more to this as well. See, these are two chords within their own right, but interestingly they're 75% the same, which is pretty cool. So obviously the C contains its C note and the E minor 7 has a D note. That's the difference between the two chords. Now what does this mean? It means if you've got someone playing a C major 7, the backing is C major 7, it means you can play E minor 7 against it. Now, if I just do that for you, there's the sound of a C major 7. Now I could play a C major 7 arpeggio against it. If I play E minor 7, it sounds like this. So it works. Why does it work? Well, if we take our C major 7 arpeggio, C, root, E's a third, G's a fifth, B's a 7, E minor 7, E's the third, against, we're talking about it in relation to the C here, E's the third, G's our fifth, B's our major 7, the D's the interesting note. Listen to that. That's a major second, like a ninth, yeah? Really nice little octave, so if I go, that's E minor 7 against C. Here's C major 7 against the C major 7. Here's the E minor 7. So it's just like an interesting sound you can go after. What this E minor 7 does, because of the intervals, it creates the sound of C major 9 without a C. So a major 9 chord, if you took C major 9, it would be, the notes would be C, E, G, B, D, which contains all our notes now of the E minor 7 arpeggio. So when you use E minor 7, when you use chord 3 as an arpeggio over chord 1, it creates a sound of major 9, which sounds very sweet, which is why it sounds so nice. Say if I was playing over 2-5-1 in C, I could, when I hit the C major 7 chord, I could go into an E minor 7 arpeggio, and then I 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So that do 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 do, that was an E minor 7 arpeggio. I didn't even touch the note C, and it created this sound: D minor 7, G, C major 9, which is a chord I haven't played in a little while. That chord, but I played, which is D minor 7, G7, E minor 7. Well, that's the arpeggios I used or thought. That's it from a lead guitar perspective. So in terms of arpeggios and things, so if you're playing over a 1 chord, you can play an arpeggio of the 3 chord against it. And another way you can think about it, if you've got the 1 chord, you can play a minor 7 arpeggio bit off the 3rd, because that's what that is. That C, a C chord, C, E, E's the 3rd. Take a G chord, B's the 3rd, so you would use B minor 7 over G. Take a D chord, F sharp is the 3rd, so you'd use F sharp minor 7 over the D chord. That's how you work out which ones you can use, but that's just academic. You need to just understand the sound of it and experiment with it. The second thing we want to do with this, we want to think about it in relation to rhythm guitar. And sometimes you might get, instead of the trusted D minor 7, G7, C major 7, you might get D minor 7, G7, E minor 7. And if you see that, that's just the E minor 7 subbing for the C. And it works because of the shared notes, right? So it works in the 2-5-1, but for me, its most common use, this subbing 3 for 1, in the 1-6-2-5. So let's take, in the key of C, C major 7, A minor 7, D minor 7, G7, which sometimes might be played C major 7, A7, which is the secondary dominant, D minor 7, G7. 1-6-2-5, really common progression, great for an intro, like. Then straight in. You could be into all of me there, say, in key of C. A common thing here, if you play that twice, is the second time around, don't play C, play E minor 7. So if I go C major 7, A minor 7, D7, G7, this time E minor 7, then we could go A7, G minor 7, G7, and it just sounds a hell of a lot more interesting. So like, here we go, up, E minor, then we're back to the start. So that's a common thing. You might also see that sometimes as C, A minor, D minor, G, and then C/E instead of D minor. And it could go E flat diminished 7th, D minor, G7. That's quite a common thing too. It's nice for intros, you know. Here's E minor. Let's put E flat diminished instead of A7. D minor. Let's put a tritone D flat 7 instead of G7. So. Also, that's what I meant to do. So that's quite a nice thing to do. So subbing out, if you're doing on an intro or on a 1-6-2-5, the confusion comes, right, for me. Say if you just got a song which is, like the rhythm changes, which is the 1-6-2-5. You might see that, right? And one book, say if it repeated twice, it might just say that twice. So C, A minor, D minor, G. You might see another book has written out that tune, and they've written C, A, D minor, G, then the E minor, either A minor or A7, then D minor, G. And, you know, it's really not that different, and it's going to work in its place instead of C. Going back to what I was saying a minute ago, you might also see that as C, A minor, D minor, G, then C/E, which is the C chord in first inversion. There, then maybe E flat diminished, D minor 7, G7. It's horses for courses. It's the same sort of thing, really. It's kind of, you're playing with other people. You might encounter these things. You might encounter someone that likes to go to the E minor or the C/E instead. You know, playing with other people, you just got to agree on what you're going to do, like standard changes for it. But just when you're looking at charts, when you're learning new songs, one thing to be aware of is that sometimes, you know, you might see 3 when in previously you've seen 1. You also might see chord 1 in first inversion, that C/E instead. So, and we're going to look at a standard this month, I Can't Give You Anything But Love. And say at the start of that, it's, you know, G, then G/B, B flat diminished, A minor to D7. Now that G/B is the equivalent of that C/E a second ago, and you might see that as G, B minor 7, B flat diminished, A minor 7, D7. Let's just listen to the two side by side. So here it is with G/B. Here it is with B minor 7, so 3 replacing 1. It's not massively different. So this is where these confusions arise, and I think one thing helpful to know is the fact that 3 can sub for 1, and also 3 can sub for 1 in first inversion. So G/B is G in first inversion, where the bass note is no longer a G, it's the third of the chord. So just a helpful sort of harmony hack that I found useful And all these little variations used to confuse the hell out of me. Once you start to understand how chords relate to each other, some of them don't appear as confusing as they might once have been. Thanks so much for tuning in. Please leave me a comment. Please hit that like button. If you gain value out of today's lessons or my lessons in general, then please consider leaving me a donation at my Buy Me a Coffee. Jazz guitar lessons every Wednesday and Saturday. Till next time, you take care.